It's been all right. I mean, better than that. Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Today is Thursday, September 11th, 2025, and this is the general meeting of the Board of Intermediate District 287. Before we move on to our agenda, I'm going to ask Director Recmo to read our mission and start our board member introductions.
Thank you. The mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students. My name is Michael Remicall, and I am representing Minnetonka Public Schools.
I'm Karen Arkin, I'm representing Orono.
Richard Zek, Brooklyn Center.
Crystal Brackey from Richfield Public Schools.
Keith Tate, Osceola Area Schools.
Brian Rock, West Tonka. Good evening, I'm Michael Bergman, I represent Edina Public.
Dan Genestra, Wayzata Public Schools.
Ann Casey, proudly representing St. Louis Park.
And Shannon Andreessen representing Hopkins Public Schools.
And Kim Ross representing Eden Prairie Public Schools.
Right. We have the approval of the general meeting agenda. So is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Shannon, is there a second? Second by Kim. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Next up, we have audience opportunity to speak. I don't think we've got anyone here for that tonight. Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, we have our consent agenda, which contains routine business items. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Moved.
Moved by Brian,
Second.
second by Dr. Mike. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. Okay, exciting. Share the success and recognition. First, we have our back to school presentation and first day of school video.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to first thank the Communication Department and Rachel Prost, who is out on her honeymoon, for quickly developing this video before she left. It is a nice summary of our before school activities, welcome back week, and then the first day of school. So please enjoy.
A skill that I bring to teaching is I'm caring and try to be empathetic to whatever situation the student is in, but also then work to help them with their academic success and kind of, be inquisitive to, like, if they have barriers, what are they, and is there a way we can address those to help them be more successful?
if I have any skill that I really try to overdevelop and use in the classroom, it is that I am more invested in people than I am any particular interest. So regardless of what a student particularly likes, I am more than happy enough to spend an hour with them, just learning about what they like, why they like it, and just get to know them. And I can safely say not one student has really had the same interests as me, but I've spent most of my time learning those interests and getting a wider berth of just different skill sets and points of view.
Something I bring is my collaborative approach with staff to help staff and students have better outcomes in their classroom, in the hallway, in their day-to-day. And one gift I have is my patience. I can sit with students and staff in certain feelings or just challenges and be able to work with them through whatever they're going through.
I work with my students and we accomplish a lot. One of the things we accomplish is increase independence. Some of my students have a hard time completing their tasks on their own. So as a teacher, what I did, I implemented one-on-one shadowing. I watched them, guide them, and we did it together to complete the tasks, and the tasks were completed. And eventually, they developed the skills with less support because of what we did. We improved teamwork and social skills. When it comes to the students, social skill and teamwork is very important. So tomorrow, after graduation, they will be able to go out there into the work field and be able to interact with other people, work with all in a program.
I feel like mine is bringing patience and then also consistency and expectations. And so coming into a place that is very, has kind of an organized schedule and they know what's happening, what to expect, they really learn to appreciate it. And then they come back saying, thank you.
To be consistent, like when we're having issues, we'll incorporate that into our SEL learning. So we'll take that so they can know what to do and how to do it better. We're trying to be on the same page as them, well as going along with teaching them as well.
I think one of them is actually being proud of what I teach. It seems like an oxymoron, online gym, and yet I just see it as what so many students need to be independent and have their choices about how they want to get their activity. And another thing, I try to make relationships with kids. They'll tell me things they're doing. They could be doing a competition somewhere. I'll congratulate them on that, just to make some personal connections.
So the gifts that I bring to my students are a variety of different content knowledges. Like I said, I have a variety of different experiences that I had when kind of growing up and coming to this district. I also have a lot of positivity, a lot of energy, kind of a natural understanding of how to kind of create the classroom environment so that everybody feels like they are welcome and can be a part of the classroom environment.
I have a very extensive worldview that informs how I work with students. So this helps me really get to know each of my students in a very personal way, how they see the world, how they see themselves. And I try to bring all aspects of their personality and experience into their learning circumstances and their experience.
One of my strengths or gifts is I just love sound and I love music. And I just want to share that with everyone, and especially with the students. It's something I've always been involved with. I'm a composer and producer professionally. Mentorship has always been a really important vocational piece for me. And this is pretty much an ideal place, like an ideal situation to reach the kids that I want to reach and to have some fun.
A little glimpse of the last few weeks and through the start of school, and completely enjoyable to welcome students back. Our theme that we talked about this year is that our students bring gifts and value to our space, and so we asked our staff, what gifts do you bring? And so they shared a little bit of that.
That's fantastic. And a big thank you and congratulations to Rachel.
Yes.
All right, now we have our new West Education Center administrators. I think Dr. Allen is going to introduce that.
Good evening, Superintendent Dowd, Madam Chair, and members of the board. So it is my pleasure. This is the second year I've had the pleasure of introducing new administrators into the district. And this year it's a little different. Our new principal that we've hired is Carrie Schwiedering, who some of you may have realized was with us last year in a different role as a curriculum and instruction manager. And Carrie is our new principal for West Education Center, and she is coming to us with a lot of administrative experience from none other than St. Louis Park School District. So we are really excited to have Carrie join us on board and in this new role. And I'll let her speak in just a moment. And I'll also, if you don't mind, introduce Shekinah Dillon, who is coming to us from Rosemount Apple Valley, Egan. And she has worked in a variety of roles as an administrator and working with a lot with transition programming, which is one of our areas that we want to continue to strengthen as a district. And so we're excited to have both of them on board, bringing a lot of skills and just energy to West Education Center. So I'm going to invite them to come over and have Carrie say a few words and then Shekinah.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Allen. Chair, Superintendent, Board. I appreciate the time just to introduce myself. And this is my second year, as Dr. Allen shared. I've been in St. Louis Park prior to that for 23 years. I actually was principal at an elementary where your board chair was the PTO chair and had her students go through, her children go through. And so it's a place I dearly love. And I knew of 287 as a member district. And I had my own ideas and beliefs about what it was and what it wasn't. And so when I stepped away and moved into the district office position in teaching and learning, I learned a great deal last year, and I also really loved it. This is an incredible district with incredibly talented people and amazing students. And so when the opportunity presented itself to be able to move back into a building leadership role, I took the chance and said, I miss the student part of it. And I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful that I had the year of the district level and I got to see all the sites and work with a number of people. And so I'm super grateful for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to an incredible year. And I have an amazing team with me. And so I will let Ms. Dillon share hers.
Yeah. Well, hello. And I first want to just say thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Shekinah Dillon. I come with a background of working honestly from the bottom up. So graduated with a family social science degree and then went into education as I had a pre-K kiddo. So started off as a para, and then I went through a Minneapolis special education teacher residency program. So I've worked in Minneapolis public schools as a paraprofessional and then as a special education teacher, where then I went on to get my administrative license and started with District 196 as an assistant administrator, and then moved into a special education coordinator role supporting District 196 transition program. And so in that, I am really honored to be here. I hold values of really high expectations, but also supporting students along the way with those expectations, and also making sure that students understand and can identify who they are and what it is that they need, and then help them to figure out what it means for them to have their best life, and to support staff to live out that as well. So I'm super honored, and it's been great at West so far. The last few weeks. So I'm grateful for the warm welcome, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or?
Oh, just
Welcome. Yeah, I'm grateful to have you here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, yes. I always say, like proudly representing Principal Schmieder, but I have to say that Principal Schmieder not only worked in St. Louis Park, but is a product of St. Louis Park Public Schools as well. So we're super proud that you're here. I'm grateful.
Thank you. We did tell Superintendent we had interpretive dance for you instead.
Or you want to get out of here. Next. Thank you. All right. We have up next under our business labor relations report, we have the 2025-26 district staffing update from Dr. Witherspoon.
Maya, you want to come up now or do you want to?
Good evening, Chair Casey, members of the board, and Superintendent Dowd. Tonight, Maya Yang and I will present a staffing snapshot as we enter the 2025-26 school year. And that will include information regarding new hires, vacancies. Maybe not. There we go. Includes new hires, vacancies, demographic trends, and retention and promotion data, and connect those realities to our strategic plan priorities related to retention. So between July 1st and August 25th, we welcomed 87 new employees, 44 licensed staff, 31 non-licensed staff that included ESPs and interpreters. 7 local 284 staff are administrative support and custodians, and 5 administrator staff. I also want to point out that we do have a few other staff that are not included in this because they're not new hires. They were people that previously worked here years ago and came back. So our total new hires, you can see the distribution across our sites here. Oh, I should have mentioned you guys all have that, right? So you can follow. Perfect. And then our new hires learned about our positions through these means. So most new hires learned about open positions through Indeed with 31 and District 287 referrals at 29, which together presents nearly 2/3 of the responses. Another 17 didn't specify a source. I'm going to still think they came from Indeed or through referrals. Smaller numbers came from SchoolSpring, 7, Google Search, EdPost, and Jobs in Minnesota. Next slide here, we held 3 career fairs at our schools, which led to multiple hires, or 13 hires, with ABEC Fair producing the most hires overall. Both ESP and licensed positions were filled through these events, showing that career fairs are an effective strategy for recruiting across roles. I think it's a really great opportunity for people we advertised, we did an Indeed campaign. They were able to come into our sites, get a tour of the building. They were able to apply on the spot. We assisted them in applying if they needed it. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us, and we'll expand those opportunities in the future. We currently have 67 projected vacancies district-wide, mostly concentrated at South Education Center and ABEC. We will prioritize recruitment resources for these positions. I do also just want to remind the board that these are projected numbers, meaning we staff based on the students that we were projected to get. So as the students come to us, we are able to staff them. So. Demographic information. So our new hire demographics, you can see. Where did it? I thought my numbers would be bigger up here, but you can take a look, and you guys have it in your packet as well. I'll just leave the slide up for a little bit so you can take a look at our new hire. And then our current employees, so our current summary, we have 928 staff district-wide with a median age of around 43. Promotions occurred across several position types last year. So we had 39 promotions. Our staff is composed this way, with the majority of our staff being licensed in ESP, make up the majority of our staff, just a visual representation. Look at our staff demographics. Our ESPs are our most diverse group. Over 53% identify as non-Hispanic, Latino, or Black. With a median age of 42, a median employment of 3.7 years, and there's 367 ESPs currently. Staff demographics for licensed staff are less diverse, about 85% white, which is a gap relative to our student population and an area that will continue to grow and work towards. District 287 is not the only one that's seeing the issue with hiring diverse teachers specifically. Again, median age 43, 7.8 or almost 8 years, which is up from 6.9 years. So retention, and then we have the total of 368 licensed staff. Demographics for our 284 unaffiliated staff. 49 employees show a demographic pattern similar to licensed. 71.4% are non-Hispanic, Latino, or white, with a median age of 48. Median years 10.2 with us, and it's the highest employment tenure of all of our groups. And finally, our district service center staff shows slightly more diversity than our licensed staff and unaffiliated staff, but less diverse than our ESP workforce. And you can see the makeup, 69% is non-Hispanic, Latino, or white. And then our median years of employment are 8.7 years with us. So that's just a snapshot of our demographics and current population as it relates to our workforce. Any questions about that? Good, go ahead.
I was just wondering, thank you for having it broken down by topics. I think that's really important that all what we're talking about. I think that's often and when we talk about demographics, but I am wondering, do we have the capability to compare to last year? And like, how are we trending, I guess?
Yeah.
I think all of us would like to see this disparity get much smaller. Are we trending in that direction? And then a follow-up would be, how are we intentionally addressing?
Yeah, so we are trending. I think I have in one of the slides here. I'm not sure which slide I put it on. Maybe I took it out. Maya, do you have the trend information?
I do. I have them printed out here.
Perfect.
Oh, no.
Nope, it's on it.
So they're not in there, in your copy, but, I do have the year over year, trends. So I would say for ESPs, we did see, a higher proportion of non-Hispanic Latino white staff this year compared to last year. But for licensed staff, it's about the same roughly, for non-Hispanic Latino white and Black staff. There's a slight variation. I think there's slightly like 1 percentage point less Black licensed staff actually than last year. But then I think there's a little bit higher proportion in other minority races, such as non-Hispanic, Latino, Asian. So overall, I think it's been kind of steady.
And we'll continue to, when we do our recruitment, I do think staff referrals is probably one of the best ways to recruit a diverse staff because communities talk to each other. And so I think we'll continue with doing that. We try to utilize Handshake as a way to reach more people and out-of-state people as well. Our efforts didn't come to fruition when it came to that, so we stopped using that as a platform and decided to allocate more funds towards Indeed, which we're finding the most success when it comes to advertising and recruitment for positions. We'll continue to go to career fairs and we'll continue to host them as well. But what did you want to?
One of the biggest things, the actual item that you'll.
Yes. And Maya will talk a little bit more about some of those later on in the presentation.
So are there plans to have a plan for making sure that we are targeting and intentionally seeking out staff of color?
Yeah, before we start every round of recruitment, we have a plan in place on how we do that. Those efforts can be improved, right, as we move forward, but definitely have a plan.
I think the question I'd follow with that is, when you recruit for any position, the actual applicants that you're seeing respond to the open position and so on and so forth, would you say that there's a trend of non-white applicants has stayed the same, gone down, gone up compared to, even though whatever our practices are in terms of what the final hiring part is, if you don't have a funnel of where you're finding applicants to enter into the process to eventually get to your output, no matter what you do, your output will always lag for the desired intent that you have. So I'm just curious, given that we have a lot of open positions, I'm sure every single person in this room who represents a different district all have open positions in certain areas that they struggle with and so on and so forth, that including in diversity, so forth. I'm just curious as to how does that relate, to the process and to, I think, the plan that's being asked about. Where do you see the effort needed to be in order to eventually drive the result?
Yeah, we're seeing success with, in terms of hiring diverse candidates with our ESP candidate pool. There's more of a diverse candidate pool for ESPs than there are for teaching positions. I think that's universal in all districts with a small number, percentage of people in the teaching profession that are of color or BIPOC staff. So we'll continue to do those efforts. You know, I think grow your own is the way to go when it comes to recruiting staff of color in our own district and student.
Yeah, but do we find that in our grow your own, do we see a higher representation of non-white applicants or staff that are able to then enter that program to then eventually get to fruition to then have that ultimate result impact?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I just had a question about, 67 projected openings. How does that compare to last year?
I think it's generally about the same as last year. There might be a little 10 in that, but we generally have about that many open positions at a time. We did hire more people last year. We had some more open positions. We hired more total people last year than we did this year, but I think we're still trending in the right direction.
Well, first off, thank you so much for these very well put together slides. I'm very impressed by just how well of a story they tell. And this may be a question that is more for our Director of Finance and Business Operations, Brian, if you wouldn't mind. I know how each district handles it is different, but I know in Wayzata, we've been having conversations about retention, but for transportation staff, so our bus drivers. And so I did just want to ask about how is that going? I know in Wayzata, we're 95% staff. We like to be at 100%. So just to ask about, transportation services for students.
Yeah, we don't have our own transportation department. We coordinate with all of our member districts to provide transportation. So we do some contracted during the day transportation that goes between community organizations and the Career Tech Center. But we don't have our own transportation department.
Yeah.
So we work with all of you in your transportation department to provide that transportation.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to make sure I'm remembering this correctly, that the number of open positions is like expected, right? Because as we get more students enrolled through the year, then we hire accordingly.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we'll do our recruitment now so that we
Yeah.
can get them onboarded and hopefully in time for the students to arrive.
So it's not that we don't have enough staff.
Right.
Correct.
Right now, that's yeah. To make that clear.
Yep. Now, there are open positions in buildings, but our principals report that we're staffed well enough to start the school year and in good shape. Okay, then I will turn it over.
And how do we just, okay. All right, so I'm here to present the retention and promotion piece. So as far as overall district retention rates, the overall district retention rate is holding steady, as well as the ESP retention rate from last year to this year. But over a 2-year time span, they both have increased by at least 1 or 2 percentage points. But for this year, we started tracking first year staff retention rates because that's one of the interest groups of our strategic plan, I think this year, or at least, there's the SIT group that I am a part of. So that rate has declined sharply from the past year, from 78% to 68% about this past school year. So we'll look a little bit further into that. But by position type, then the biggest, I would say, rate change was probably for licensed staff. So they experienced a 3% decrease in retention rate, 3 percentage points decrease from the last school year to from 23 to 24 to the last school year. Okay, so go ahead. Every other positions, I think for the most part stayed steady, or there were a few positions where the retention rate increased. So one of the things that the strategic implementation team asked for me to look at was resignation rates and how that's trending for our district. So overall, for all district staff, resignation rates are declining, as well as for ESPs. But as you can see, for first year staff, then the resignation rates are increasing. Or they were decreasing, but then they increased in the last year. So this next graph shows more in depth of which the resignation rates by position type. And as you can see, for the licensed staff, the resignation rates increased from 11% in the 23-24 school year to 24%. So a 13% percentage point increase there. All other positions were for our larger groups, which are ESPs licensed in 284. Those groups stayed, the ESPs in 284 stayed steady, the resignation rate. So then now taking a closer look at the ESP first year retention rate. So retention is made up of resignations and terminations. So the resignation rate, as I said, is holding pretty steady for ESPs, but it is overall a decrease from 2 years prior. But the termination rate is increasing, is what it looks like from over the past 2 years. So termination does not include involuntary. It includes involuntary, but not like retirement or resignation, obviously. So because of those two factors going in opposite directions, but the termination rate is growing at such a high rate that it's pulling the retention rate down for the first year ESPs. You can just go through all the slides and ask at the end. Okay. I know there might be a lot of questions, but we'll get to them at the end. So now retention rates by ethnicity and race. We can still see that there's a disparity among non-Hispanic, Latino, Black staff, which the rate for 24-25 was 82% compared to 90% for non-Hispanic, Latino, white staff. We also saw a sharp decrease in the retention rate for our Hispanic, Latino, white staff. It's almost like a 19% or actually 21% decrease there. And this is just, again, retention rates by ethnicity and race, but only for ESPs, which is pretty similar to the overall retention rates by ethnicity and race. And retention rate by location. The only site that I tend to look at or track is North Education Center, because of all our school sites, at least, they had the highest retention rate last year, and they're tied with South this year. Okay, so for promotions in this past school year, there were 39 total promotions. There were 38 the year before, so the number of promotions is holding steady. The number of ESP promotions, the number went up by 2, or that which amounts to an 8% increase. So when looking at the promotions disaggregated by ethnicity and race, we can see that 49% of promotions this past school year were for BIPOC staff, as compared to 39% the year before. And so that's a 10 percentage point increase, or 26% increase in the previous rate. And same analysis done for just the ESP promotions. There's a 52% increase in ESP promotions for his non-Hispanic Latino Black staff. So previously there were 33% of the promotions went to our non-Hispanic Latino Black staff, and for this previous school year, it would that increased to 50%. So this next graph looks chaotic, but I'll explain what it means. It's showing the new positions for just ESPs that were promoted, the new positions that the ESPs went to, and also disaggregated by ethnicity and race. So on the top, you can see the 23-24 school year. And I want to focus on the instructor position that 9 of the promoted ESPs went to the instructor position, but they were all non-Hispanic, Latino, white. And in this past school year, 24-25, a total of, I think 16 ESPs were promoted to the instructor position, but 7 out of the 16 were non-Hispanic, Latino, Black. And another 3 were of different BIPOC, staff of color groups. So previously 0%, what was previously 0% is now 44% of ESP promotions are non-Hispanic, Latino, Black, and 63% overall are BIPOC staff. So that's a huge, huge increase. So just a quick summary. There's still existing disparities between our staff of color and non-Hispanic, Latino, white staff. There's the concerns over the first year retention rates for regardless of position. There's but that for different reasons. For licensed staff, it seems it's due to a higher resignation rate, and for ESPs, it's due to a higher termination rate. And then there was also a decline in the retention rate for Hispanic, Latino, white staff. For promotions, there's an increasing diversity of promoted staff. BIPOC staff received 49% of all promotions in this past school year. On one of the previous slides, I forgot to mention, but there's the new ITRAC cohort this year, the second ITRAC cohort. More than 50% are non-Hispanic, Latino, Black. So that'll be the second cohort. So any questions for this portion?
Yeah, before we start questions, I want to say thank you, because I know last year we had the staffing update and then the board had a whole bunch of questions and you answered a lot of those questions. And so I know there will still be more questions, but I just want to appreciate that you guys put this all together to do it together. Which is great. So thank you. So I saw Kim first.
Yep. So is the Jumpstart program an effort to address the first year retention rate?
It is. So I just wanted to state too, we're doing a lot of our strategic plan, right, is all about retention rates. And so we're doing a lot of initiatives to combat those retention rates of those first year or early career professionals.
Answer my question.
Oh, great. First, I really appreciate all of the insights that came from this. So thank you so much. I especially just want to appreciate the transparency around promotions. And I think that this is an area where shining the light on it is actually really important because of inequities that we have seen, heard, and talked about in the past. So I am particularly grateful for that. My question is maybe more of a question for the superintendent, which is, I think there's probably lots of different ways that one could interpret the first year data, right? The resignations, the terminations. And so if it's fair to ask you, like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think when we talked about the strategic plan in the first year, what we notice is not everybody knows what it is. And so there is a learning curve. So we started that onboarding, even though it was part of our strategic plan, we started half a year early because we know, people are saying we don't feel trained. So a lot of the exit interviews, exit information is, it's not what I thought. I don't feel well trained or prepared. And so a lot of our efforts have gone into, and why we focused on the first year is how do we have our staff understand who we are, the students that we work with, and then provide them the training and support needed in it. And so I think about, there's huge things, mentoring that's increased, onboarding that's increased, jumpstart, really trying to target, and then just direct coaching, trying to coach and support staff in our federal support environments. So I think we have gotten better at saying who we are. I think the job fairs on the site matter. So being really intentional, there's such a scarcity of licensed special education teachers. And we can't live in a scarcity mode for our students.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
No, Michael.
I would follow up of that. The one thing as I was going through the second half of trends and things like that, the one thing you're not in the report, but has just been sort of discussed is what were the exit interview top reasons why people are resigning or leaving? What were the reasons why people are being terminated? What is the knowledge that we're picking up? So you've talked about all the things you're already starting to do to it. So you're inferring what those things are, but it doesn't actually explicitly say those things. I'm always very interested in wanting to know what our learnings are about, where our gaps are. And then when you then do those efforts, how are they correlated to say, okay, as we work on this in the next year or in the next 3 years, where does the trend line lead us to then making that happen? So it's not a complaint. It's more of just an observation of in your storytelling that I would like to see that in this wonderful report. But when I looked at the trend part, so when you look at that steep trend drop from that standpoint, I would like to actually understand better, well, what are the actual top 5 reasons the first year staff person doesn't do it? Now, Superintendent Dowd sort of starts to mention that a little bit, but it's not explicitly spelled out in the report. So I would just encourage that kind of articulation from
I think that's a great suggestion, and I think professional development is one of the keys, right? That the people indicated in exit interviews, and so we're working on it through our strategic planning. I do want to address too the termination piece, the involuntary termination piece. So I don't have the specific numbers, but anecdotally I can tell you, number one. District 287 in the last couple of years here, we really have high expectations for our staff. And I think that is why we're seeing that trend. And so our site leaders, principals and assistant principals have worked really hard on dependability, for instance. And so right from the start, we walked through the process of verbal warnings and letters and all of those things to try to support people in their dependability. But that is probably one of our biggest areas of concern is dependability when it comes to involuntary terminations.
Got it. Well, then that would only raise another different question, which is then in our actual recruitment process and hiring process, how well are we not only evaluating them on their backgrounds and so forth, but how well are we articulating to them before they choose 287, not just 287 choosing them? Are we giving the candidates as clear enough picture possible so that they are more readily coming into the environment, maybe not fully breast in everything, but it's not like there's a shock that on the dependability part there's no question someone could enter in a program and then realize, whoa, the level of dependence on this is way higher than I am capable of doing or willing to do. Then that's what happens. But how do we on the front end before they even get in the door? Because as you know, it's expensive to recruit somebody, hire them, train them, and then lose them, which is why what's really great about the report is the overall retention is looking good, but we have this identified area that's not. How do we work it? And then what did we learn in our other areas where our retention levels are high? Has there been anything that we've gleaned from the success of that might be applicable to the first year staff element that's not going right? That's just sort of, when I look at that kind of data, those are the wonderings that kind of come into my mind.
Those are also some surveys we'll start doing for this school year as we collect data for our strategic plan as well. I do want to also we are robust in our background check process, and some of those questions are around dependability. We have a robust onboarding that we talk a lot about dependability as well. The union comes in and also talks about dependability with their own staff as well. It's just an area that we have to continue to work and grow.
Were there any, I guess the last question, if you don't mind, because we're responding to it. Could there be anything related to dependability as far as accessibility and equity for staff members that hamper their dependables? Status, meaning that transportation is an issue for them or some other family issue or whatever those things. I'm just thinking about when we talk about the equity part of what's in there, how well do we know what's driving that dependent versus them just not caring enough or don't have the capacity to do that? Are there other things that we then in support of, not just in professional development support, but in other supports, would that maybe have a delta difference from that standpoint?
Yeah, so I do. Everyone has some life circumstances sometimes that affect their ability to come to work. We have a robust leave plan for people who need to take that, a paid leave plan for people who need to take that. Of course, we have a robust EAP program, right? It's that we refer people to if they need some support. I think the other piece of that too is if there are some family dynamics or things going on, we also offer through health insurance, mental health services at a copay as opposed to paying the full charges up front and stuff. Those are ways that we combat some of those.
Thank you.
Yep.
I would just say that, one thing that our HR department does very well and our administrative team is house.
Yeah.
Right, so yes, we have resources and we don't just move determination. We really work with our staff member to see how we can support them to be dependable on work every
Michael took a lot of my questions.
Sorry.
First of all, I want to thank you for all the visuals. You got math skills, graphing, so that's cool. I think we hit on two of the things here that you guys are doing to improve. Okay, so the Jumpstart program is great, and Michael asked a lot about the quality of hiring and the hiring process, which is great. One real nitpick here is you have a resignation metric and then you have a retention metric. The retention metric, what I've seen in the past, does not include terminations. Okay, and so I feel like when you have voluntary terminations and involuntary terminations, I guess, all in one metric, it's really hard to focus on something that, he brought up about the quality of hiring and, why are people leaving type of thing. So it's just a comment.
Yeah.
I do have one question. So in our, I know it's totally different industries and stuff, but Indeed, I was surprised to see that. I think most of our, comes from LinkedIn. Is LinkedIn big in the education system?
So we do use LinkedIn as well as a way. We just haven't found as much success. I think our candidate, maybe for licensed positions, that would be a way, but for ESP positions, Indeed really is, nursing, interpreters, ESP, really Indeed has been our biggest source.
I just want to finalize, so Maya's been for a couple of years, and this is data that we did look at in the past. And so as we continue to improve and support our staff, she has absolutely mad skills. So we're very grateful for the talent that she has brought and the gifts that she has brought so that we can really dive into our staffing situation and be proactive. We do have a team, we call them our SID, our strategic implementation team, that looks at this, and the data that they were seeing drove the goal, drove the action steps that we're doing, and we'll be continually monitoring this data. We have stay interviews as well as exit interviews. And so we do have a lot of data finally coming in and really trying to dig into the function of staffing. So appreciate the team. It's a lot of work, and you're right. Hiring doesn't, it's a huge lift. And so we want to make sure our staff feel prepared and ready to work with our students every single day. So appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next we have under board business policy review, and we have a couple of different, I guess, categories. of things.
Yes.
And I'm just going to send it over just for bringing it out to.
Madam Chair. So I am going to start, there's two buckets. We have our annual policies that we review. And we're gonna start with that, and then we have legislative changes. Ironically, the three annual review policies, two of them had legislative changes. So the first one is policy 413, harassment and violence. These are statutory language changes that are required to be part of the policy. So you'll see under definitions, they added lowercase d. They talk about remission, materially limited major life activity. It's just a clear definition. And understanding that someone might be in remission still need the support and protection of some kind of harassment. The second one, policy 506, had no legislative changes and also had no language changes. So it was already approved. And then the last policy is crisis management policy 806. Under G, violence prevention 2C, they added language about reporting information to the Department of Public Safety statewide anonymous threat reporting system and any local threat reporting systems. Very minor language changes, legislative language changes. When there is a legislative change, the board has the authority to waive the second reading and approve policy as written. You actually have the authority to waive readings in general, but I just want to reiterate with any kind of legislative. I put it as a first reading, but would want the board to consider approving those three policies with the summary of changes. And if the ad hoc committee would like to add anything about.
So the ad hoc committee, given that these are legislative changes, we don't have much latitude in the interests of efficiency. We would recommend that the board waive the first reading and approve them. And so in the spirit of that, I'll make the motion, but if somebody's not comfortable with it, not gonna take it personally. So I would,
waive the second reading.
yeah, and approve them, right?
Yep, and approve, this would be 413, 506, and 806.
Right, so I would move that the board waive the second reading and approve policy 413, 506, and 806 as presented.
Second. Oh, second by Michael, and then further discussion.
I just have a quick clarifying question. Are we under any sort of timing restraint that would, ask for a waiving the second reading?
So these policies, we're not under, we also have to follow the statute. So these are statutory changes that are currently in effect, and this is getting our policies up to date with statute language.
The statute's already happening. Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
It already
It's
started.
already happening
July 1.
and our policies are behind,
Right.
which would, I think, then have a reason for waiving a second reading because we need to be up to date.
Any other discussion on these three?
Okay.
If you are not comfortable with the waiving of the reading, please say so. Just a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the policies, those three policies are approved.
Okay, the next set of policies are all legislative language changes. And so as we go through those, we'll start with policy 418, drug-free workplace school. Under the section 4 exceptions, they added a tribal medical cannabis program, so added language. Added language for notice and retaliation regarding the tribal medical cannabis program. And under section 5 procedures, they added G. Again, legal language that we did confirm all of this needs to be in the policies. Any questions? I'm going to go through each of these. The next one was policy 501, school weapons. Under section 6, report of dangerous weapon incident in school zones. There's added language and regarding electronic reporting to the Minnesota Fusion Center. So districts have a requirement in reporting, just an additional requirement.
And just as an add, the Minnesota Fusion Center is specified in the statute. Because that's one of the questions we had on ad hoc is like, who are these people and why do we have to tell them anything?
Thank you for that. And then under policy 515, protection and privacy of people records. This is something that under the definitions 3, the unique thing about this policy is it talks about federal language. Well, we remove the federal language as it's different than Minnesota. So it tells you all this federal language, and then the last one is, but Minnesota does it different. That's really confusing for people reading the policy. So we're eliminating what Minnesota does not follow and highlighting what Minnesota follows. And then under number 2, new language to include parents and caregivers. So there's an added protection after this legislative session that the address and contact information always was protected for the student. It's now also protected for the parent. Questions? Okay. Policy 516. This was actually, there's small changes, but what they ended up doing is reorganizing the policy to make it more clear. So it looks like there's enormous amount of changes, but actually it was really hard to kind of, it was better just to start from scratch, but most of the language is new. It was just formatted differently. But the biggest thing is that they added telehealth. So in the general statement, you'll see added comments around telehealth. And then under 3 requirements, there was reorganization, and then they added D, possession and use of I can't say that. Thank you. Delivery system. And then they added F, procedures to regarding unclaimed. That was not new language, it just was reorganized. The biggest section is added in section 4, access to space for mental health care through telehealth. And so it's really focused towards secondary. But at the ad hoc committee, we talked about, as a district, we partner and coordinate for telehealth for any student. We want to, if we can, we would like to support telehealth being administered during the day as long as it doesn't disrupt the educational. So we added language as just to say that the district also accommodates access to telehealth for students in elementary and middle, because it was just the policy language alone was slighted just for secondary as a requirement. We do it for all. So we wanted to address that. Anything else from the ad hoc committee or, yeah?
Yeah, so just if anybody has any questions about the epinephrine language specifically, the reason why they changed to the phrase delivery system from auto injectors is simply because there's now an intranasal delivery device that is now available and being used. It's actually been around for, I believe, a year. So it's just kind of bringing the language up to date with those that are available, just as Narcan is available as an intranasal delivery system. Epinephrine is now available in the same way.
I think the biggest thing is that students can carry it in school and can administer it to another student. And so we will have our nurses working on a procedure. What does that look like? So there will be an internal procedure. That's the biggest change. And then the last policy, 534, was school meals, and they added B, free school meals, just really identifying that we have free school meals in Minnesota. Wasn't any significant language changes. So those were all the legislative language changes. Again, because it's legislative language, things that we talked about before, I put it on as a first reading. The board could make a motion and take action tonight, or it could move to a second reading.
So the difference between the two buckets that we have is that the first bucket are all annual review policies. The second bucket is not annual review policies, but ones that nonetheless had some kind of legislative change that we have to, like we said, for the first ones, we're already under those rules but now we're just updating these policies, but they're not annual review policies, which is why there's two separate buckets. Okay, that's correct. Okay, Crystal.
And same as with the first category, all of these statutes are in effect currently.
Correct.
None of them were delayed. Okay.
Caroline.
I just wanted to mention that, so at the bottom of all the documents, it says if people want it in other languages. So I really appreciate that that is included on there so that other people who speak other languages can have access to this information.
Part of our language plan.
Part of the plan, yeah. Okay.
I was clicking around 418 on the website, where it has about the drug alcohol testing policies. And it looks like it wants to link to 416.
On our website?
Yeah,
Okay,
but there's no 416.
okay, I will fix it on the website.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Ready? Okay, second
everybody?
verse,
Yes.
same as the first. I would move that the board waive the second reading and approve policies 418, 501, 515, 516, and 534 as presented.
There's a motion by Kim. Is there a second? Second by Karen. Any further discussion?
Did we say we're waiving the second
She
reading?
did say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, didn't hear it.
Good check. Seeing no further questions. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and those policies are approved.
Thank you.
All right. Board reports, the AMSD meeting, was it just last week? Yeah, on Friday was the ever popular Morris Leatherman presentation, so if you have a chance to, I don't know if the slides or the videos on the AMSD website, but that was always interesting. And the next meeting is the state demographer, which is always, that's actually my favorite.
Yeah.
She's always fantastic. So if that is interesting to you, make sure to check those out. The Connections newsletter is attached to the board book. The calendars are also in there, and the Get on the Bus and Local 2209 schedules are, I think they're in the board book, but they're also going to be sent out in the Friday update this week. So please check your calendar for those. I think the first ones are in October, so they're coming up. And make sure to let Juanine know if you're planning to attend, either Get on the Bus or the lunch meeting. And just so you know, the lunch meetings are hybrid. So you can come here and sit in the DSC, or you can just log in online, which is a super nice option. And a lot of the staff members that we're meeting with do that option. So don't feel like that's a lesser option. It's a great option. So please make sure to sign up for those if you can. You have anything else before we go around?
I do have one more thing, and Yara, thank you for sending that message. The Minnesota State licensed educators are at 94% white, and we are at 85. So although we have work to do, let's celebrate the work that is being done. So just
Thank you,
put that in
Yara.
space.
Okay, once we're on the table, who has something to share? Let's see. Our ride tonight. It's been I hope it's been a couple weeks, right? It's been a heavy couple weeks. So I hope that all the littles and not so littles in your schools have had a great start to the school year, despite all the heaviness that's happening in the adult world right now. I got to go to the first day of preschool on Monday, which was absolutely fantastic. And there was one little guy who definitely could fit inside his backpack. That is the cutest thing I've ever seen. So if you are feeling that heaviness, I would recommend like getting into a building, come get on the bus. Because the best way to, remedy that is to get in front of kids. They're fantastic. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Shannon, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, and we are adjourned at 7:35. Just one signature to the end, not like last time when we had to, it was like going to close on your.
Okay.